welcome to Season 8 of 2000's Childhood Pop. My name is Mr. 96. Normally I open each calendar year with my most average list and then a pop review, but this year I wanted to make a change. Last year was sort of a refresh for my channel in that I started focusing more on 2000's childhood pop, so now I want to take it a step further by kicking off this series much earlier than before. And the song we'll be checking out today is one that's pretty expected for this kind of show, but also a bit strange for me. If you were around at the 2000s, you probably remember hearing this song on the radio quite often. Whether you listen to pop or adult contemporary, you surely came across this one even years after its initial release. This song was suggested to me by Prideful Zella on Patreon. If you want to know more about how you can suggest 2000 songs for me to review, stay tuned until the end of the video. But today, we'll be checking out Complicated, the debut single of one Avril Lavigne. Though, as you should expect from my channel, I won't just be talking about one song. When you talk about Avril Lavigne, it's really hard to summarize her legacy because where do you even begin?
He was a boy, she was a girl, can I make it any more obvious?
I don't think it's crazy to say that Avril Lavigne is not only one of the most iconic artists of the 2000s, but also one of the most influential. So much so that she's even in the famous Papa Bell rant.
He was a boy, she was a girl, could it be any more obvious?
She's often cited as one of the key drivers of pop punk in the 2000s, and part of the reason she's so iconic is because she was one of the few women in that space. In an era where most of the popular female artists were primarily pop, Avril Lavigne being a teenage girl making a more grunge-sounding pop was quite a big deal. There were many in the media who considered her the anti-Britney Spears, which, looking back, is an incredibly dated and frankly misogynistic way of pitting women against each other just to clown on bubblegum pop. The whole rock versus pop debate seems like a relic from a different era, since the 2000s were basically the swan song for rock's popularity. I think that's part of the reason why Avril Lavigne's music has stood the test of time to this day. She wasn't bubblegum pop, yet she also wasn't some hardcore rocker from some boomer genre. She rode the line incredibly well to create her own identity. So to understand what made her music so appealing, let's look at the song that introduced her to the world, Complicated.
Chill out, what she yelling for? Lay back, it's all been done before.
Looking back on the song itself, one thing I appreciate is that the lyrics are very casual, but not dated by any stretch. A strange thing is that a lot of the lines to this song are etched into my brain, yet I've never actually sat down and thought about the content of the lyrics. In my mind, I assumed it was about some guy who's being a dick to Avril, but when I actually read what's being said, it's not a romantic song at all and is more just about friends acting like posers.
But you become somebody else, round everyone else. You're watching your back like you can't relax. You're trying to be cool, you look like a fool to me.
That pre-chorus honestly says it all. It's a song about how you shouldn't have to fake your personality to look cool in front of others, as you just end up making things more complicated. Like I said, I always thought it was about some guy being fake, but no, it's about everyone. Man, I wish I realized that back when I was a kid. My reading comprehension was not good in elementary school. Yet even if I had decent media literacy, I don't think I would have caught on to the context because I didn't discover this as an Avril Lavigne song. For some reason, the first place that comes to my mind when I think of Complicated is the locker room to my local swim center back when I was on the community swim team. As a kid, that was my only real exposure to radio music, and since YouTube had only just started around that time, finding information on music videos was not as easy back then. At the time, I had no idea what the name of the song was or who sang it. Other songs at the time I remember were This Love and She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5, so I didn't even know Maroon 5's name until years later. Complicated is one of those songs in which I knew it before I even knew who Avril Lavigne was, so my nostalgia for it is very different from others who relate it to the singer.
You were everything that I wanted.
As iconic as Avril Lavigne is, I missed out on her first two albums as I was a bit too young to be paying attention to music at the time. My Happy Ending was a big hit in 2004, but I was only 8, so I wasn't in that teenage demographic that idolized her. It's why it wasn't until 2007 that I actually heard her name when Girlfriend took the world by storm. At the time, I remember liking it because it was that catchy tune that went, hey, hey, you. Of course, you might remember that I put it at number 7 on my 2007 worst list, so clearly my enjoyment of the song did not last. In addition, I have even less reason to like it now because the song was co-written and produced by one Dr. Luke.
You're so fine, I want you, mine, you're so delicious.
For some people, Avril Lavigne making this kind of bratty pop was a total betrayal of what she made before. Considering I came to the Lavigne party pretty late, I never knew much about her earlier stuff, so I just assumed this was who she was. In hindsight, it shouldn't have been all that shocking because it's not like Avril Lavigne was some indie metalhead.
Tell me whatever gonna make things so complicated.
Before doing research for this episode, I had always heard people associate Avril Lavigne with pop punk's rise in the 2000s, but really the true pop punk album of hers was The Best Damn Thing in 2007. Apparently, her first 2 albums were seen more as pop rock or alt rock since she had more of the grounded skater boy persona, and the more I think about it, I can see why, since a song like My Happy Ending isn't really punk. So when she transitioned to Girlfriend, I was always under the impression that she went from pop punk to pop since it was seen by some as a sellout move, but it's actually the opposite in a sense in that she went from a pop rock style to pop punk. I remember when Girlfriend was once the most viewed YouTube video back in 2008. It was actually the first video in history to surpass 100 million views, and that was how I discovered who she is. So her initial image as this skater girl making relatable music was not one I was familiar with, as I was more familiar with later songs like Girlfriend, What the Hell, and Hello Kitty. Oh god, I have to talk about Hello Kitty, don't I? Seeing as it's been 10 years since that song lit up the internet, I think I should talk about it since I don't think I've ever given my actual thoughts. At the time this came out, I remember initial outrage from people thinking it was extremely offensive. Maybe at the time that's what I thought as well, but since then I don't find it very racist. I'm not Japanese, but looking at the music video and listening to the song, it seems like Avril really loves Japanese culture. I don't feel any maliciousness behind that. Basically, she's a weeaboo. As are many people who like Japanese media, me included. If you really want a song by a white girl from the same era that actually is offensive to Asians, remember Chinese food? This one actually does piss me off because the song was written by Patrice Wilson, aka the genius behind Friday by Rebecca Black. He's the pedo panda, by the way. Ah! The point I'm making is that this song actually does feel offensive because at no point do I believe the people involved in this know what Chinese food even is. For example, this guy says to go to Panda Express.
Because Chinese food takes away my stress. Now I'm gonna go and eat Panda Express.
Saying that you eat at Panda Express is the most telling sign that you don't eat Chinese food. I mean, I like Panda Express, but calling that Chinese is like saying you eat Mexican food at Taco Bell or soul food at KFC. I'm getting off topic. The point is that Avril Lavigne's song is not offensive, as the only people I've seen get outraged at it are non-Asians. But does that make the song good though? Honestly, the dubstep part is a neat idea, but the execution feels pretty messy. I'm not sure how to feel about the song, but I do find it funny that this was co-written by Chad Kroeger of Nickelback back when he and Avril were married. But after that time of our lives, Avril's later songs caught my attention for a variety of reasons. In 2018, she released a song called Head Above Water, detailing her struggle with Lyme disease. The song is described online as Christian rock, so I can't exactly tell you what it's doing right or wrong since I'm out of my depth here, but it's her album in 2022 that really made me think about her legacy. With pop punk making its nostalgic comeback in the 2020s, it was only right that the queen of pop punk herself would join in with her 7th studio album, Love Sucks, produced by Travis Barker of Blink-182. As I stated in this video, people seem to describe Avril as pop punk in general, so it's hard to tell whether or not Skater Boy Avril is more pop punk than Girlfriend Avril, as it varies from person to person. Regardless, Love Sucks is actually different from all of her early stuff in that it leans more into the Blink-182 and Sum 41 type of punk rock. Which is funny because she's working with a member of the former, and because she was previously married to the lead singer of the latter. Avril will turn 40 later this year, which goes to show how much time has passed since 2002, but it also shows that she's a generational icon, inspiring many artists from Billie Eilish to probably the most obvious example, Olivia Rodrigo.
Fuck it, it's fine.
Yes, I know that he's my ex, but can't two people reconnect?
In many ways, Olivia Rodrigo seems to be the Avril Lavigne for Gen Z, so it's not surprising that Avril Lavigne showed up to one of Olivia's concerts in Toronto, and when they sang Complicated, the Olivia Rodrigo audience knew the song by heart. Avril was just 17 when Complicated came out, yet it ended up being one of the most important songs of the 21st century. The song is great, and it's not one that I have much negative to say about. The music, the singing, and the lyrics all work in harmony, and people still quote this song to this day. I started the show in 2017 to get ahead of the curve before the 2000s became retro, so I'm glad I got to talk about the 2000s artists whom people are most nostalgic for today.
Honestly, you promised me I'm never gonna find you fakest. No, no, no.
Once again, I want to thank Prideful Zella for suggesting this song, as I think it's one of the most important songs in pop music history. If you also want to suggest 2000 songs for me to review, you can join my wonderful patrons on Patreon. For just $1 per video, you can join my patron-only Discord server where we chat and chill, and at $2 per video, you get to vote on what songs I review for my series 2000s Childhood Pop. At $5 per video, you get to be listed in my Names of Fame, and at $10 per video, you get a personal shout through the heart along with Casey Vellante, Jason Semler, and Prideful Zella. For my patrons watching this around release, you can click the link below to help vote on what song I'll review for the next patron-voted 2000s Childhood Pop episode. Once again, I'm Mr. 96. If you want to see more pop reviews, click the subscribe button below and tap that bell to be notified when I drop a new episode. Next should be a pop review, as I finally found something interesting to talk about. Pop songs may come in numbers, but there's only one. 96.
너의 그 말 그 잔인한